we can manage our speeches, and so this is one of the highlights of my evening anyway, when I get some hints and tips, especially from the person who's going to come and do it with us tonight, that's Teresa Dukes.
How many of you were going to be in Ipswich watching that torch run itself down the high street? Yeah? Were you going to be? You were going to be? Yeah? I was going to be. And then I realized, I've got to be here. I've got to be here delivering the hints and tips for Speakeasy at Martlesham. And I'm glad I'm here because look at him, everybody who showed up and have actually made an effort to be here. But I do have a little bit of a secret. I made it down to the Neptune docks and I saw the boat with the torchbearer coming in. So I cheated, kind of drove in, took a picture, drove back out, and I'm here. It's fabulous. And that leads me on to what we're going to talk about today. Now, when we're building speeches, how many of you concentrate on transitions? Anybody? You do? Some of you. Do you know what a transition is? Maybe. But when you're working on them in your speech, do you struggle trying to get the right one or even figure out how to transition from one part of your speech to the other? Sometimes, yeah. I did. And at the very beginning of my speech journey, I thought there's got to be an easier way. And there is. And at the end of this little hints and tips, you won't struggle with transitions again. Because in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to walk you through a little journey of 3 steps to simple transitions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So, to give you a definition of a transition, it's very similar to the Olympic racers that we have when they're doing the relay races, yeah? They're literally running their circuit, they do their little bit, and then they hand off to the next person. And it's really important that that handoff is as smooth as possible. So the person running doesn't have to stop in order to hand off to the next one, and that next one taking the baton or the baton doesn't have to stumble because they've had to wait for the runner to get there. So we want in our speeches to do as smoothly a transition at the beginning in our introduction. Once we get into the body, we want to have smooth transitions within the sections of the body of the speech. And then at the conclusion, we want to have a smooth transition into that portion as well. Now, if you've been paying attention, I've already given you step 1 in my introduction. And I want to know if any of you have figured out what I did within that introduction. Any suggestions? Bob?
The Olympic connection.
Oh, that was nice. I gave you, caught your attention. So that's one thing that I did. I caught your attention at the beginning of the speech with the Olympic torch. Yeah? What else did I do?
Suggested you're going from one transition to another, from going to the docks to here and back, and the transition of your movements.
Yeah, yeah. Transition of my movements.
You linked your speech to a current event.
I linked it to a current event. I did something really specific as well. I did involve you. But there was something that I said at the beginning of it. I made a promise to you. What did I promise?
You told us that you were going to teach us about that.
At the end of this speech, or the end of this topic, you will not struggle with transitions. So I made you a promise. That was the first thing. What was the next thing that I did? What did I do, Mike? What did I do? Can you remember? You weren't listening, were you?
I think I was most is pulling
Pulling the little jar out here, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was a transition.
The next thing that I did was I gave you a roadmap of what I was going to do within this speech. So I said, I'm going to introduce to you 3 steps to take you through the speech. So that's step give your people something that you're going to promise to deliver within your speech, and then give them signposts to let them know this is what they need to look out for. Okay? All right. Now, let's go into step number 2. This takes us into the body of our speech. I was on a train Monday. I was heading down to London. I wasn't really sure whether I wanted to go or not because I'd had a long day. I really should go because it's Speaker's Trust and it was the Jack Petty Speak Out Challenge and I was the trainer for some of the kids, so I needed to go and see this final. So I got on the train. I made the decision to go. Got on the train and I thought, I can use this hour and 15 minutes to do something, to actually make use of that time. And I got into the carriage and I sat down and we started rolling, and before I knew it, I unfortunately had picked the wrong carriage to sit in, because there just happened to be 2 children under the age of 5 with their mother going to London. Guess what? They were excited. They could not sit still. They wanted to talk every single second of the trip. They went from one topic to the next topic to the next topic, and they never, ever stopped. Now, I like kids. I don't have any grandchildren yet. I don't have any anytime soon. I told my kids not to, and they're great. But my God, they were so distracting that I couldn't even think. And I wanted to work on this hints and tips section on that train journey, but I couldn't because they were so distracting to me. And sometimes that's what happens in the body of our speeches. We want to give and ask so many things of our audience that we throw loads and loads of things into it. So instead of doing that, I want you to treat the middle section, the body of your speech, as 3 sections. And when you're ready to make a point, the best way to anchor it for your audience is to tell a story that makes a point that is relevant to your message. And if you've got 3 sections, then each story needs to have a point that is relevant to your message. And that will help you transition from one point to the next. Yeah? So what was step 1 again? Tell me. Promise and give signposts. And what do you think step 2 is? Avoid distractions. Exactly. Tell a story and make a point. Yeah? Okay. That leads us into our conclusion, our last section here. And when we go into the conclusion, this is the point where we're meant to shine. We're meant to be able to allow people to take in what we've said and hear the message. So what we also want to let them know is that we're getting ready to finish. And I know there are a lot of people, they hold your attention at the beginning because you've caught their attention, you're exciting, it's really wonderful, but during the middle of your speech, you kind of lose them, and the audience start looking at the floor, they start thinking about what they're going to do tomorrow, and they kind of turn off sometimes. So what you have to do when you're getting ready to go to your conclusion is wake them up. Let them know, hey, I'm getting ready to wrap up here, you need to start listening again. And that will grab their attention. But I want you to do it in a different way. I want you to be creative in the way that you do it. Don't use the same cliche, well, in conclusion, because that's boring. So just try to find a different way to mix it up and make it more challenging for your audience to want to listen to you. When I came home from this journey to London, I got on the same train to come home, but it was a different environment, totally. It was 10:30 at night. Guess what? There were no children under the age of 5. There were people that were adults, and guess what they were doing? No, this is the interesting thing. They were either reading, listening to music, or sleeping because they had been drinking. Okay? Which meant that I had this peaceful, blissful, relaxing journey home. And what that allowed me to do was to reflect on my entire day. And it gave me the opportunity to think, wow, I made a good decision. It was really fantastic that I took this journey, because look at what I heard from these speakers at the Jack Petchy final. Maybe I should be spontaneous more often. So when it comes to your conclusion, it's really important for you to give your audience, first, the introduction that you're going to stop, but give them something to reflect on so that they can start to take in what you have to say, and they can learn from you and glean the message that your speech is all about. So what is step number 3? Reflection. So in the way that we're going to review this, I want you to now tell me what step 1 was. Again, everybody tell me. Step 1?
Make a promise.
Make a promise.
Signpost.
Signpost. Step number 2?
Avoid distraction.
Avoid distraction. By doing what? Tell a story, make a point. And third step? Conclusion, reflection. So if you use all 3 of these steps in your future speeches, you will be guaranteed, 1, to pull together a speech that is easier for you to remember, but 2, it will also ensure that your audience takes on board your message, and you will get congratulated for your efforts at the end of the day. Mr. Toastmaster. Sorry, here.
Thank you.